All right, game consoles are expensive. I'm not going to pretend like they're not. I see it in the comments occasionally if I talk about getting all of the systems. And yes, it can be kind of tough for people to do that. But I used to actually get PlayStation 4s, just as an example, super cheap all the time. Just a little backstory. I actually would have to pretty much find them for really cheap so we could sell them in stores at a profit. That's actually a spot we were able to make money on, because we were able to fix them. And you've probably been following this channel long enough to know that, yeah, we fix stuff all the time. I fixed several things on this channel. So today we're going to have some fun. I'm going to show you guys what I used to have to do a lot. We're going to go on a bit of an adventure today because for right now I have nothing here. But by the end of the video, I want to have a working PlayStation 4 right here hooked up to a TV and not spend any more than $60 on it. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're actually going to go to my favorite place to shop, and that's Craigslist. I lived on Craigslist. Basically, I would go on Craigslist constantly looking for broken or even cheaper systems I can talk down and then possibly refurbish if it was like dirty and need to be cleaned. But I always looked for the ones that were broken. And if you can find some on there that are broken but look like they can be fixed, you can actually get a system for super cheap. I've already scouted one out for this video, and I've already set up a time to go meet them like in the next 10 minutes. So we're set up on that. But when you go on Craigslist, you want to have a few things here. First of all, you want to generally take somebody with you if you're not sure. You want to meet during the day, and you want to meet in a very public place. A lot of times you can actually meet at your local police station, and as long as they're on the up and up, they won't mind meeting you there. And of course, if you're under 18, you want to double check with your parents and make sure they're okay with all of that, and possibly they go with you. But it's a great spot, I think, as long as you take all the precautions to get systems secondhand at a very good price. The one that I picked out today is actually set up for $50. And the issue with it is that it turns on but has no video. Now, it might sound like that is a very risky system to buy, but it's actually one of the best systems to buy because it's generally the cheapest to fix. I also want to say, if you're having a hard time finding any broken systems on your neck of Craigslist, your spot, if you actually go in the for sale or even the looking for section and you post up that you want a broken PlayStation 4 or something so you can work on it, or you're just looking for parts, you can usually have a lot of people send you messages. I would do that from time to time, and I would get probably 4 or 5 emails per day of people just saying, I have a broken PlayStation 4, I already bought a new one, it's in the closet, do you want it, can I sell it to you? And what I would do then is I would actually check with GameStop, see what they were offering for cash, and then bump it up $5 or $10, and a lot of times that ended up being about $60 per. And it worked beautifully. So enough talk, let's actually go and pick this system up. Like I said, I'm meeting them in about 10 minutes in a big box store parking lot. During the day, it's like in the middle of the day, noon right now. So we'll go pick that up. And while I'm picking it up, we'll actually have a word from our sponsor. We have Audible actually sponsoring the video. Audible is the leading provider of premium digital spoken audio information and entertainment on the internet. I don't always have time to sit down and read a book for hours on end, so getting through even a single book a month is difficult. That's where Audible comes in for me. I will generally listen to books while I'm driving or at the gym, and Audible works on your iPhone, Android device, Fire tablet, iPod, and many other MP3 players, so it's pretty much with me wherever I am. Membership includes 1 free audiobook a month, exclusive sales, and 30% off all regularly priced audiobooks. Unlike streaming services with Audible, you own your books and you can access them anytime. I just got done listening through Console Wars, and I recommend checking it out if you're into the history of video games and maybe you're interested in how Sega was able to battle against Nintendo in the early 90s. Start listening with a 30-day Audible trial, and your first audiobook plus 2 Audible originals are free. Visit audible.com/spawnwave or text spawnwave to 500-500. That's audible.com/spawnwave or text spawnwave to 500-500. Okay, I just got to the spot where we're meeting up. It's actually in like a big box store parking lot, middle of the day. So pretty good spot, I think to meet up. Now, the one thing I realized is I looked at that listing again before I came over, and I realized it's missing the hard drive cover for the PlayStation 4, which isn't really a big deal. That's not at all needed for it to work. And of course, you can get them pretty easily. But there's also no controller, so that's another thing I'll have to get. Although I have multiple controllers as well. But something else to look for is to double check the picture and see if they mention any of that stuff while you're shopping on Craigslist. So now I just have to wait for them to show up, and I guess we'll see how the thing actually looks in person. Okay, so the person came by, gave him the 50 bucks, and he gave me the PlayStation 4. It is missing the hard drive cover like we thought it was, and it's not at all with a controller, so that's a shame. But they did have the cables, so if you don't have a power cable or HDMI cable, that's good. But again, you just have to keep an eye on those pictures, I guess, for when you're shopping on Craigslist. But otherwise, it looks fine. We'll just have to take it back and see what's wrong with it. So they unfortunately didn't have a controller, but they had the cables. There's a power cord and the HDMI cable here, all kind of bundled up in like one big like a little mess there. But hey, they had both of them. That's technically 2 less cables that I guess I would have to buy. And the system doesn't have the hard drive cover, as I said. Otherwise, though, it just looks kind of dirty, and that's about it. A lot of times I'll also check to see if there are any obvious roach droppings or anything, because depending on your area, that might actually be a problem. You might actually have systems that are infested, and you don't want those. Another pro tip, if you're doing Craigslist, just because you meet them doesn't mean you need to buy it from them. So if they have it, double check it first before you hand them the money, okay? But when I got in the car and I took a look at it after we were done filming that, it does look like it's what I thought the issue was. It's the HDMI port. And while that sounds a bit hard to do, I've been doing HDMI ports for so long that this should be pretty straightforward. And HDMI ports are cheap. They're about $5. Now, you might be saying, John, I'm not going to do an HDMI port, and that's perfectly fine. What you want to look for, if you're not going to do an HDMI port, because that does involve soldering, which I'll show you actually how to do that here. And again, we'll have this guy hopefully up and running. You want to look for a dead hard drive system, or you want to look for one that has stuff jammed in the disk drive, or the disk drive isn't reading, because that's actually not a terrible fix. Doesn't involve any real soldering. It does involve opening it up and everything, and sometimes you can actually find these systems with a bunch of disks jammed in it, and you'll even get like a free game out of it. But a lot of times that is a problem. Stuff gets jammed in these slot loading systems, and that's one of the easiest fixes ever. People will buy a new system, they'll throw theirs in the closet because they don't want to deal with it, and then they'll go and get it and sell it to you for 50 bucks. Super easy. So I didn't think they had upgraded their hard drive. They didn't look like they wanted to deal with the PlayStation anymore. This is a 500 gigabyte hard drive, one that came with it. Very good. Dusty, yes, but again, nothing that appears to be roach droppings or anything like that, so we're in good shape. The PlayStation 4 I've taken apart several times on here, but I do need to get down to the motherboard, so it's going to be quite a few T8 screws to get us there. Another part that I really liked about this is they are missing this warranty sticker here, but the other ones are all still covering it perfectly fine. I don't know if this fell off or they considered opening it up and they stopped, but if you have the warranty stickers on, generally that means they have not been in there at all, so that's a really good sign as well. Yep, pretty dusty in here. A lot of dust going on, but that just blows right out. No sweat. Clean it up a bit and we're good. Otherwise, though, you can see it looks very stock. Nothing's been tampered with or messed around with or anything. Great. Like I said, when I see those warranty stickers on there, I pretty much know we're going to be good to go when it comes to that stuff. But I do still need to get the board out of here, which actually isn't terrible considering I just take the power supply out and I can unhook the Wi-Fi cable here from it, and then it'll actually come out the other side. Board looks good on the bottom. Again, just dust and dirt. Easy enough to clean off, so we'll get that off there. And we have it out. Looks good. I'll replace the compound as well. We'll use some MX4 on this guy, because that's generally what I will use. And looks good. So now we need to look at this HDMI port up here, and we'll take another look at it just to make sure it does look as damaged as I thought. And it does. You can even see the metal down here is kind of bent out a bit. The pins are all messed up in there. They're kind of crossing each other. It looks like somebody just abused that HDMI port pretty bad. Not surprising. PlayStation 4 HDMI ports are fairly delicate. So now we got to get our solder station and actually start working on this guy. So now it's time for the fun part, because we are going to remove this HDMI port right here. And it's actually easier than you might think, although, to be fair, I guess you would want to use a rework station of some kind. They're not like expensive, and they're good to have for like projects like these, obviously. I think this one here was like 60 bucks or something. What I'll do is I'll link down below so that if you really want to get into soldering or hobby stuff, you can actually pick one up yourself. I think this one came from eBay, but they're also, I believe, on Amazon. And I can just check the model of this one and go ahead and drop it down in the description for you guys. But basically, the plan here is to heat up this HDMI port to the point where it becomes liquid, the solder does. We can just pick it from there. And then I actually have a nice little solder sucker here that I really like. It actually pulls solder out, and we're gonna go for the 4 posts around that actually anchor this guy down. We're gonna clear them out while it's molten, just to make it really easy. And at that point, we'll actually go through, put a little bit of leaded solder all the way around the pins there. We'll go back with our new port, and then we'll drop it on there. So the old HDMI port is off. I've also managed to clean all 4 of the anchor points. And then we also have all the little pins that I have to, I'm gonna put some leaded solder over it during actually removing the lead-free solder, which melts at a higher temperature. I was having a little bit of trouble with 2 of the posts on the right. So what I did was I will add leaded solder to it so that it melts easier, and actually it let me clean out the other 2 sides. So if you're ever in a situation where you're struggling to clean out solder from something, or you're trying to get solder to melt easier, a little bit of leaded solder added to it when you're trying to melt it helps a ton. So all I need to do now is I want to clean this section up, and then we're going to drop one of our new HDMI ports on there. And that should hopefully all work out well, and then we'll test it and see what we have. So I've tinned all of the little pins on the board here. So it looks very shiny, because leaded solder actually has a bit of a shine to it, whereas lead-free solder is very hazy looking, very gray looking. And there's a couple options I can do when I put the HDMI port down. I can actually use hot air like I did to remove that one after I'm very comfortable with this. I can actually set this down, make sure all the pins are lined up pretty well, and then actually heat the whole thing up. And when I apply a little bit of pressure to this to push down, the pins should hopefully seize to that solder that's down, or I can go through each little pin with the soldering iron and just make sure everything's down. So I might actually do some hot air here to see how that goes. Now, it's certainly nice when everything goes really well. All the pins actually look pretty good. I'm still gonna go over with the fine tip solder iron to just touch all the pins to make sure they're there, and then just put some solder on all the posts, make sure that also flows through. Otherwise, though, I think we're just about ready to put it back together and test it. So I like to put it together as little as possible to test it. And what's really funny is for the PlayStation 4 to test it, you really only need this bracket. Everything else can kind of just sit together long enough to check everything out. And fortunately for us, the person we bought it from had a power cord and our HDMI cable. So I really just need to get a controller if I can get this guy working, which I have extra controllers. And honestly, for this at $50, it's not too bad to get without a controller, considering you can get yourself a brand new one for you can find them 40 bucks on sale. So let's see what we get though. So I got the power on this guy. This guy's on. There we go. So we do have video now. Good news. It looks like, looking at the camera right now, I guess it's doing the system storage check, probably because they probably just unplugged it when it didn't put out a picture. But here's the thing. This puts out, from what I remember, in a lower resolution, and I've had picture before here, but not in the main menu. So how about we let this go through, and then I'll actually pop a disk in so we can double check that disk drive. All right, so we're booting up to the main menu now. Looks like they have a password, so that's fun. I'll have to get through that. So it takes it in. It's reading. Yeah. Okay. So I'll most likely just wipe the PlayStation 4 at this point because it has a password. But this is, at this time, a $55 PlayStation 4. I just need to get a controller. I have extra controllers myself, but if I was in a store setting, I would just throw in a controller with it. Might even have some used ones around the store, and then I'd sell it for a pretty good profit, as you can see. Whereas when I was getting these for that price, we were selling them for like $225 all day, and we were able to get them for less than $100 because of the work I would put in here, and I would do HDMI ports constantly. It was a very common thing. Hard drives were also something we would see a lot as well, and they would come in at around that same price. Sometimes we drop a terabyte drive in and mark it up from there as well. So if you're a store that's like a mom and pop store, I think you owe it to yourself to learn at least some of the basics when it comes to refurbishing consoles, because there is a lot of money you can make there. Or if you're somebody who likes to do these kind of things as a hobby, there is a ton of money you can make here as well. Or you can just get systems cheap and not have to spend $300 or $400 for a console, especially if you want a second one. You can get one for this. Like, this would technically be a secondary console for me that I can put somewhere in the house. But it was pretty fun to do that. Let me know what you guys think about this down below. And you kind of got a little bit of a look into the life I used to have when I would do a lot of refurbishing. This is something I would do constantly, like every day it was this. So let me know what you guys think about this down below. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys next time.